Hello, everybody, and welcome to your September 2020 episode of Sunday Sit Down, the show where anything goes and nothing is left behind. I am Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome, as always, and while I'm very excited to be doing this new discussion here on Sunday Sit Downs, I'm also a little bit somber just because of the fact that if you haven't been watching for a while, you all know that this is the last season of Sunday Sit Downs. So this is one of the last 4 episodes of this show on my channel, and it has truly been an amazing experience, and I really thank you all for taking these last few years to enjoy some really good discussions here with some other great content creators. And also today is going to be a very interesting topic of discussion. I like to tackle every kind of topic, whether it is friendly to everybody and sometimes a little uncomforting. But I always feel that if I don't take the time to really express myself, as well as having my guests do the same, I feel that we really won't move forward as a society, because that's really what it's all about right now. We're in tough times, and there are a lot of things happening, and we really need to try and find some unity. I think that that's the key word. And it doesn't matter what the topic of conversation is, we have to try and find that common ground. And the only way to do so is to talk about certain topics that may be uncomforting. But I'm very comfortable with the person who I have that will be joining me today. She is someone who hasn't been making many videos in a while, but I'm really hoping that this will give her a little bit of incentive to rejoin the community. And that, of course, is Maddie from her channel, Madison Green. Maddie, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Of course. Yeah. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm really glad to have you back again, as a matter of fact. You joined me for an episode of Versus, and that was definitely a great topic of discussion with you and Katie. It was great to talk about some Disney magic, and Disney will be joining my channel in full force. I've got the next Sunday Sit Down that's all about Disney, a little tease for everybody there.
Okay.
And tomorrow, because we're recording this on a Saturday, just so everybody knows, I will have officially been posting my review of Pinocchio, which means that I will have seen all 58 canon classics from Disney.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a life goal, and YouTube basically was the driving force for that. But anyway, the topic that we're going to be discussing today is a topic that is a real hot button one in the world right now, and it's about the fact that there is a real demand for social change. And one of the topics within this larger, more broad topic, if you will, is the equality between men and women. And there are some very important and positive things that have been found within this topic of discussion, but unfortunately there's also some negatives that have happened. And Maddie and I are here today to try and crush some stereotypes and really give our own personal perspectives on some of the things that are involved with this one specific topic. So, as always, I usually do start at the beginning, but I'm going to step aside from that, and that's actually going to be the second question, because as always, I have my 7 questions for my guest. And the first question that I want to ask you today, Maddie, is what is the definition of feminism in your mind?
Oh, wow. You know, like everybody has their own idea of what feminism is, but to me, it's just gender equality. That it's just simply gender equality. It's not about, you know, women's superiority or men's superiority or whatever. Like, it's just about equality across the board. We all have equal opportunity to achieve the same goals if we desire to achieve those goals.
Yes, and honestly, I feel the exact same way. That is exactly what I think the definition of feminism is. Also, I think if we could take a real landmark that was what created the women's movement. I think we could go back to the times in the United Kingdom with the suffragettes. That's really where I think it happened, when the women were creating protests and making statements to get their rights to vote. But throughout history, there have been some very strong females that have had that high structure of power. I mean, you think of people like Queen Elizabeth, who was probably one of the strongest female figures in all of global history. But it really wasn't until the more modern times where people were suddenly realizing there's something not right here, and we need to strive for that equality. And it was really something that started in the United Kingdom with the suffragettes, and then of course it moved on to Susan B. Anthony and the other proud women that gave American women the rights to vote. And then in the 60s and 70s, it got even stronger. And that was really where I would think the true definition of feminism really started to be in the American and even the world vocabulary. You know, that was when the word feminism started to be heard. So now we'll start at the beginning, and that is, what was your first reaction to what I prefer to call the mutation of feminism? This is something that has been happening in very recent years. I think it might have started not necessarily right when the 2016 election happened. I think it started about maybe a few years before that, where the whole concept of feminism truly changed. And it wasn't just about gender equality, because then we started hearing terms like toxic masculinity officially being put into the global vocabulary and basically saying that it is wrong. So what were your first reactions to this whole change in the concept of feminism and how some of these other terms were being brought into our everyday lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, advocating for men obviously isn't a bad thing. I just feel like feminism is about gender equality, but it's specifically more about women having the same equal rights as men. And so when you talk about toxic masculinity, I feel like it's a completely separate issue. And I feel like feminism has strayed from kind of its original goal. And, you know, we're all trying to achieve better life for everybody. But at the same time, I feel like feminism has just become so broad that the original message of feminism has kind of lost its meaning for a lot of people. And I think toxic masculinity is a completely other subject to advocate for or against, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I remember when I first started hearing about the whole concept of toxic masculinity, and when I first heard that, it was sort of me basically saying, so what these, I guess you could call them, not necessarily even true feminists, more like extremists, if you will. That's just my, if that's wrong out there, guys, I'm sorry, but this is my personal opinion. You could put your comments in the box below and let me know if I'm wrong or not. I mean, look, I will not deny the fact that some men in this world have done some pretty bad things. And bad,
sure.
the word bad is just putting it lightly. I mean, I would definitely say that when it came to the Me Too movement, to a certain degree, I think that a lot more good was done, not necessarily some serious damage, because we did weed out some truly, truly bad men doing bad things. And I am all for the fact that names like Harvey Weinstein and Roger Ailes and even, you know, Kevin Spacey as well. He did some really, really, really bad things. I really believe that these men, and not even just men, there are even some women that have actually taken their power and have done some really bad things. I mean, I still remember back in 2014, that there was a massive YouTube scandal where some big name YouTubers were actually seducing some of their fans and actually even sexually assaulting some of their fans. But I think the part that really, I don't necessarily think it was something that was impossible, but it was definitely something that shocked me a little bit. It was mostly male YouTubers, but there were some female YouTubers that did that too. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty really bad. But I just feel that the problem right now is that because of the fact that while it is true that there have been some evil male intentions, and not even in recent years, we're going further back, the fact that now people are painting all men with a broad brush. I mean, look, I am what some of these extreme groups call the devil incarnate. I am a straight white man. I cannot deny the fact that that is what I am. But I know that through the way my parents raised me, I know what is the right thing to do and what the wrong thing to do is.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel that one of the things that I'm not too thrilled about is this mutation, which is, some people call it third wave feminism, some people call it fourth wave feminism now. I don't even know what wave we're in right now. I think we're all still waiting for the second wave of the pandemic at this point in time.
Yeah.
All men are evil. I disagree with that entirely. There are good men in this world. I know for a solid fact that as a man, I'm not perfect, but I've seen what some of these bad men have done. And I don't even know who thought that masculinity was supposed to be something that is a bad quality to have in men, because a masculine men, they're strong men, they are caring, they are people who do have good intentions, God willing, most of the time. But I feel that a masculine man, to me, is just a proud, dignified human being. That's my attitude about being masculine.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously there's biological differences. Everybody knows that there's biological differences between a man and a woman. But it's such a spectrum, I believe. And, wherever you fall on that spectrum, I don't think you should, I hate to say this, but I feel like feminism in a way is trying to make men more like women instead of just having equality. And I think that's when it comes into, man hating or whatever, just because men aren't more like us. It's almost like women have started to believe that feminist qualities are superior. And so therefore, any man who is more masculine in nature is a bad person just because they aren't like us. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. You're actually nailing something right on the head. It's the fact that it's not just these third wave / fourth wave feminists. It's a lot of these groups that unfortunately are constantly playing the victim card. These are people that are not aiming for equality. They're aiming for superiority. It's sort of like, to me, a revenge tale right now, because it's like, oh, men have had the power for so many years. Well, now it's time for us to take it from them. And on top of that, we need to seek out revenge to make them suffer like we did. I don't think that that is right at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to become, or if it continues to go that way, then it would become, women treating men the same way that women have always been hated, like hated to be treated that way. It's like we're becoming the person that we hate. And I think the whole revenge thing and just getting back at men for centuries of, women being suppressed, oppressed, like, I think that completely defeats the point of feminism, and it completely defeats the point of our society becoming better, because that's not making it better. It's just changing who's in power, and then there's still a group of people who are going to be oppressed.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, look, I work for a private college, and most of the heads of the departments in the school, whether it's in the educational side or just the administrative side, it's mostly women that I'm working with. And quite frankly, I love working with them. They're all wonderful, wonderful people. And I just see strength, I see camaraderie, and I don't see anybody in this office trying to drag each other down. The men and the women together, we're all working in harmony, and it's wonderful. I mean, it's like, that's what I want to see. I want to see more of this. I don't want to see all of these people that are basically saying we can't have men in the workplace because they're scumbags, like it all goes back to the election of 2016. That was when I started to be more aware of it. And there were some days where I was actually afraid to actually go up to a female coworker and say, I like the shirt or the shoes that you're wearing. I mean, like, I'm specifically complimenting a woman's clothing, because if something looks nice, I want to let someone know I think it looks nice. But there are some people in this world that will hear that compliment from a man and basically not look at it as a compliment, and possibly, unfortunately, a sexual advance. And that's a scary thing to feel,
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously bad people everywhere
Of
of all
course.
genders, and so I don't think you can look at a select few of the population and then apply that to everyone. So just because there are men who try to make sexual advances on women at work or wherever, because I've experienced that many times too. So like, I know that is a real thing, but just because some men do that doesn't mean all men are like that. It doesn't mean that all men are trying to make sexual advances or, trying to suppress women or, sexually objectify them, whatever. Like, not, you can't take a select few and apply it to the whole population.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because I also want to make this perfectly clear to people out there that I know that there have been, unfortunately, a lot of women and even some men that have been victimized, and I'm just saying that that's not necessarily something that I'm trying to sweep under the rug. Yes, I know that that happens, and it's a horrible thing. It's like, the other big thing that's happening right now in our country is the injustice towards the Black community. And look, it's a horrible thing to know that what happened to George Floyd happened, and I'm hoping that that police officer gets thrown into jail. But the fact that there are a lot of policemen of all colors and creeds getting up and saying, we are not Derek Chauvin, do not associate him with us, he is not one of us, he's a bad person, he is a monster. That's what this whole conversation that you and I are having is all about. We're trying to let people understand that there needs to be an understanding in regards to all of this. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
So let's go into the third question, and that is, what is your attitude about these so-called feminists that are canceling women who choose not to be what they classify as strong, career-oriented, feeling that when a woman decides that she just wants to be a homemaker and a mother, they're basically telling this woman that there is something wrong with her. And also, on that note, if a man decides to choose that role in the family household, does that make him any less of a man?
This is something and within feminism that I'm probably the most passionate about, because I'm a Christian. I live in the deep South, and so it's very traditional as far as like traditional male and female roles. But feminism has made its way here in the South too, whether people want to believe it or not. And so I have several friends who are married, they have children, and that's what they wanted in life. That was their goal. Their goal was to be a mother. Their goal was to be a wife. And it wasn't to work their way up the corporate career ladder or whatever. Like, being a mother, being a wife was their goal in life, and that's what they're doing. That's what they're fulfilling. And they have felt so much hate and so much pressure to be something else, and like that their choices, their goals in life, and what they're choosing to do with their life doesn't matter, because other women around the world, and specifically around our country, have said that, you know, they're not thinking clearly, like they're letting men control their lives and telling them what to do, and that's not the case. Their goal in life was to do what they're doing. And so for people to tell them that, you know, what they want out of life isn't right because they're not trying to make something better of themselves, I think is completely toxic. And feminism is supposed to be about having the choices to, you know, pursue what you want in life and not let your gender keep you from being able to pursue those things. And so not everybody is the same. Not every woman wants the same thing out of life. If you want to have a career, if you want to work your way up the corporate ladder, or whatever it is that you want to do in life, that's great, and you should have the opportunity to do that. Your gender shouldn't hold you back from that. But if a woman wants to be a stay-at-home mom and be a homemaker and be a wife, then that should be okay too. And I just, it really makes me angry when I see that side of feminism, because it completely goes against what feminism stands for. And as far as a man wanting to be a stay-at-home dad, I think it completely depends on the family. I think it depends on, you know, what they want out of life, what their goals are. I don't think it's wrong in any way for a man to be a stay-at-home dad. But I think it needs, if you're married, I think it needs to be a decision that you make together, because you're in a marriage. And so if the wife or whomever wants to pursue a career and the dad wants to stay at home or whatever, like, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. It just needs to be a decision based on each family's circumstances and what they think is best for their family. And quite honestly, some men are better with children than women are, as hard as it is to believe for some people. And so in those circumstances, of course, if the dad wants to stay home and take care of his kids, then he should be able to do that without feeling less of a man.
Yeah, I'm very glad that you made some of those points. I mean, I can actually incorporate a lot of what I saw growing up as a kid, because my mom was very, very lucky because my father is a workaholic. Like, he works nonstop. He is one of 3 siblings in his family, and I still remember hearing my aunt and uncle say about my father, when is he going to stop working? He works too hard. But he worked so hard to give my mother the opportunity to actually stay at home and take care of me and my 2 siblings, and she loved it. And I think that a stay-at-home mom, you want to talk about a true career woman, you can't become more of a career woman than a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
You are a nurse/doctor, you are a teacher, you are an executive chef, you are so many things. And believe me, there is no greater reward of being a stay-at-home parent than just getting all the thank yous and I love yous in the world from your kids and your husband/wife, whoever is the one that does these types of jobs at home.
Yeah.
I think that that's a wonderful thing. Like, unfortunately, we're living in a world right now where in some places, especially in major cities in the country, where we cannot have that kind of life anymore. And honestly, I think it's a horrible thing for children, because I feel, and this is my own personal opinion, it doesn't have to be the wife, it could, or the mother, it could be the father too. That's why I talked about the stay-at-home dad. There really should be the ability to have one parent in the house that is able to actually be there with the children, because children growing up need to have true time with their parents, because that's the way that they are going to grow up to become strong men and women that are going to move this country forward. And for about 30 years, maybe even longer, we have been living in a world where it is virtually impossible for that to happen, merely because of the fact that the cost of living, especially in places like New York and California and Pennsylvania, especially like in Philadelphia or Boston, Massachusetts, a lot of these major cities, Chicago, it's impossible for that to happen right now because you need to have two incomes. So basically the children are not being taken care of by their parents. They're being taken care of by a babysitter or a housekeeper. And this is not me trying to be a bad person. This is a fact. Sometimes some of these people don't speak English. And these kids are not being truly nurtured, and they're not being truly disciplined by their parents. And it's because of the fact that this is happening that some of these children are growing up, and they're sometimes, unfortunately, they're dealing with bad family situations. And when they finally have the ability to make something out of themselves, they have no direction because nobody taught them anything. Because you can go to the best college in the world, and you can have like one of the most decorated degrees that you could ever find. But if you don't know how to balance your checkbook, if you don't know how to pay a mortgage, if you don't know how to even fold your own laundry or cook your own food, then you truly have lost what it means to be alive. And you don't learn that in the classroom. This is what your parents teach you. I still remembered a few years back, I laughed so hard. There were these classes being created called life classes, where young men and women were basically being taught all these things. I'm like, my parents taught me all this stuff. You know, I mean, look, my dad has basically seen the entire world from an office window. He's traveled all over the world for business meetings. But when he was home, he still managed to make time for me and my siblings. But my mom and my dad taught me so much. And just this year, my parents came to visit me, and I saw them for the first time in a long time because of the pandemic. And my dad actually took me aside and said to me, I cannot get over how clean your house is. He sees how well I'm taking care of my home as a homeowner. And yeah, I had to learn a lot of things on the fly. Sometimes I still do call them up. I mean, let me give you an example. Let me tell you something that's very different about my wife. My wife is a teacher, and my wife knows how to fix things. My wife's father is a hands-on kind of guy. He builds things, he fixes things. He knows how to do things like install air conditioning, install light fixtures. My parents didn't teach me that. My parents hired people to do that, but my wife knows how to do this stuff. So she shows me how to do these things. I love that about her. Right? It's nice to know that at least one of us knows how to do these things. And one of the other things that you harped on was, you know, when it comes to decisions being made, especially in a married life, you have to work on that together. And that's definitely something that my wife and I do. We both cook together. We both, you know, do the cleaning of the house together. We split those chores because we both know that we have certain strengths in these certain capacities, and we balance it out together. I've said to my wife that, you know, especially with what has happened in the pandemic, and that I was actually able to do my job from home without skipping a beat. If there was an opportunity, you know, obviously my wife and I, we don't have children yet, but we'd really like to have children, hopefully sooner than later. And I said to her, when we do have a child, obviously we will have to look into daycare, but I would seriously consider finding out if there's a way that I could do more of my hours of my job from home, so I could be with the child, you know, pick the child up from daycare. If the young one is sick, make sure that I am there, because I know that I can do my job efficiently from home. And I would love to have more of a stay-at-home role, because my wife is a teacher. She can't do that. So I am hoping that that is something that we have learned from this specific year alone, because one of the biggest strengths that we have seen this year was because of the fact that we all unfortunately had to go into some kind of a lockdown. We have been able to really rebuild the social fabric of the American family, which has been lost for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that that can be rebuilt, because I'll tell you the God's honest truth, Maddie, I feel that if we're able to rebuild this, then I really think that we're going to get one step closer to the equality that feminism truly stood for in its beginning years. The fact that we can find out, like, okay, we've got two career parents, but the father can actually still keep his career strong and stay at home and take care of the kids. Boom! Wife can go out and still be that Fortune 500 corporate leader if she can, because I think that that is a great way to find that equality. That's just the way that I feel about it. I don't think that there's anything wrong with a stay-at-home dad. I mean, look, my dad once got a little nervous when he saw how passionate I was about cooking. And my dad comes from that truly classic family structure. Like, it's not the man that does the cooking, it's the woman that does the cooking. But I said to him a couple of things. I said, first of all, Dad, women get very turned on by men who love to cook. I specifically said that to him. And I also said to him, why wouldn't a man want to cook? It's a socially acceptable excuse to play with knives and fire. The fact that as a married couple, my wife and I, you know, we both share the stereotypical things that the man and the woman do in the house. Like I said, my wife likes to fix things. I like to cook things.
Well, it's like you said, you use your strengths. You don't make each other fit into a certain role. You just use each other's strengths. And, you know, like, if she's good at fixing things, why would you not let her fix it? Like, why would, like, no, you're a woman, you're not supposed to fix things, let's hire somebody. Like, that doesn't make any sense, you know?
Hey, look, my wife is actually 2 inches taller than me, and believe me, I milk that for all that it's worth. You know, like, I always tell her, honey, I can't reach this, could you please reach it for me? But I'm still the bug killer. I'm the one that kills all the bugs. She will kill the tiny ones, but if she sees the big ones, I step in. She will not cross that line, and I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. But anyway, let's go into another topic of conversation. And this is another one that I have a large passion for. The famous line, boys will be boys. It is now basically classified as a toxic masculine statement. But the real question is it really supposed to be that way? I mean, look, men in high seats of power seem to be, because it goes back to the whole concept of, you know, what's going on right now with this current movement is that boys will be boys is a bad thing. So basically, when it comes to men in high seats of power, this needs to be something that should be stopped. But should it? You know, that's a big question.
When I hear boys will be boys, I mean, obviously there's the association with rape culture, which I don't think anybody should say that they're okay with rape or rape culture. But boys will be boys, I think, started out as just like the typical, like, when you have a little boy, like, you put a 4-year-old boy outside, typically they go play in the dirt. And then they come inside covered filthy in dirt, you know, like that. I think that's where boys will be boys came from. And now it turned into something completely different.
The troublemaker, the boy that basically went out and got his knees scraped and climbed trees and chased birds, you know, burned ants with a magnifying glass, you know, going out and playing rough sports and stuff like that. And look, I will not deny it. Occasionally, the boy, especially when he's put around girls, yes, he would lift up the girl's skirt for the sake of laughing, but that's definitely a debatable thing. That's what I'm saying. But at the same time, the boy will go to another boy and pull his pants down just for the sake of being mischievous. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's what I agree with. Boys will be boys. That's what I think. A boy just being wild and crazy and just running around like a chicken with his head cut off, chasing everything, tumbling, stumbling, just like taking everything head on.
And it's not necessarily just like exclusively boys too, because there are plenty of girls. I was a tom girl growing up, and so I was doing everything that my older brother was doing. So we were in that together. But typically, boys will be boys. I think boys are more prone to do that kind of behavior than little girls are.
You're absolutely right. Nowadays, it's becoming a little bit different. Now, girls are actually playing, football right now. There's nothing wrong with that either. I'm completely okay with that. If a girl wants to be just as rough and tumble as the boys, let her do it. Let her have fun. That's what it's really all about. Feed your passion. Sky's the limit. But
yeah,
I think that as a man gets older and then he starts getting more mature, God willing, and he gets into those stages of power, like the head of a Fortune 500 company or the head of an independent business, I don't think that people should be saying because he is a man, he should not be running this business. You need to put a woman in there because it's better for the culture of the workspace. That's not necessarily the truth.
Yeah. I have a degree in leadership, and so I've studied leadership a ton. I've read plenty of books, and it all goes back to your leadership team. It's not necessarily who's the CEO of the company. It's who is in positions of power on the team of leadership, and what do they do to benefit the culture of the company. And, a man, there shouldn't be anything wrong with a man being a CEO of a company or in a position of power, as long as he's stewarding his job well. Obviously, if you're a bad CEO, you shouldn't be in that position.
Absolutely.
But if people are saying you shouldn't be in that position just because you're a man, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because who's to say that a woman would be better at that position anyway just because she's a woman? It's not about your gender. It's about like your leadership and your skills and what you bring to the table, what you bring to the company, not about your femininity or, like just because you're a woman or just because you're a man. Like that shouldn't make any kind of difference in how good of a leader you are.
Yeah, and I think one of the few things that people also need to understand is that especially when it comes to the current situation, when boys are young, one of the things that people need to know about boys, and sometimes it's not just boys, sometimes it's girls too, boys don't have a filter when they're young. Boys will just have serious diarrhea of the mouth, and they will just say anything that pops into their heads, whether it is not sensitive or whether it is sensitive. And look, I am a guy who was basically someone who didn't have a filter, and yes, I had no shame when I was younger. But the fact that we're living now in a world where when boys are at that stage, they will have those diarrhea of the mouth moments on social media. And nowadays we're living in a world where people are making it their full-time job. Fortunately or unfortunately, they're not necessarily getting paid for that, but there are people that are basically now, if they feel that there is something off about this so-called specific man, I'm going to go take a look at his social media and I'm going to try and find something controversial about what he said, whether it was derogatory, it was racist, or if he just is saying really gross things that are not appropriate for the workplace. This person should be removed because this person is toxic. First of all, I still want to know why there are people in this world that are trying to find ways to dox people who they just don't like. It's not even necessarily about someone who makes them uncomfortable. It's just like, I don't like this person, so I'm going to find a way to sabotage this person's life. I mean, talk about not having shame. I mean, I really wonder how some of these people feel at the end of the day. I mean, we'll take a look at a celebrity. Look at what happened with Kevin Hart. He's such a popular comedian, but because of the fact that he said some unfortunately anti-LGBTQ sayings, the fact that people basically said he said this how many years ago, and he shouldn't be allowed to do anything now. I mean, clearly, there is a large portion of this world. There are still some people that don't. But sensible people with brains in their heads are going to reflect on some of the stupid things that they've done, and they're going to realize I was wrong. I
Mhm.
don't think that a person should be suffering in the now for something that said person did in the past that they clearly understand that what they did back then was bad.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little biblical here,
Go
but
for it.
there's a scripture that talks about seeing the plank or seeing the speck in someone else's eye and missing the plank in your own eye. And so, like, people are so willing to look at other people and see what's wrong with them and see all the bad things that they are doing or have done when they don't, they're not introspective. They don't look at themselves. They don't look at all the bad things that they're doing or that they've done. And people want to hold out on forgiving other people for the things that they've done, but they don't want, or they want forgiveness themselves, but they're not willing to give it out. And like everyone wants to find something in someone else that makes them a bad person, but in reality we all do bad things. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. And if you're going to, I hate cancel culture. If
Oh
you're going
yeah.
to cancel someone for something that they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even a few months ago, if they are a changed person and if they've asked for forgiveness and they're trying to become better and they're trying not to do those things anymore, like if that was you in that position, you would want the benefit of the doubt. You would want to be forgiven. You would want a second chance. But so many people aren't willing to give that to others.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another thing that gets me really upset with a lot of these movements. And it's also the fact that it's not just wars on unfortunately, it's mostly white people or straight people. But I also am very upset over the fact that some of these movements are against organized religions, like
Mm-hmm.
Christianity and even
Yeah.
Judaism right now. And it's really sad because they feel that because religions are things that are based on older things, and there are certain parts of the scriptures that basically say that some of the things that are being embraced right now are
Mm-hmm.
not things that were embraced back then. But that's a whole other conversation that I know that I tackled some of this with Katie, who we both worked with. She did a Sunday
Mm-hmm.
sit down with me and we talked about faith, because faith right now is at a very interesting position in culture, because the secular world is advancing so much more rapidly right now than the religious world. And
Mm-hmm.
because of that, religion has hit a plateau. And that's why right now there's a lot of religions that are really, especially the traditional monotheistic religions, they're looking back within themselves and they're trying to figure out how can we grow to
Mm-hmm.
make religion still something that is important to people and something that's significant. I mean, as someone who was raised observant in the Jewish faith, there was a lot of things that when I grew up that I questioned, and there were a lot of things that I agreed with. So I had this real sit down, I looked within myself, I spoke to my peers, and I said to them, listen, I am a very proud person, I'm very connected with my faith, but things need to be changed for me to truly embrace it, because I don't want this to feel like a burden. I want religion to be a privilege, a gift, a blessing. And that's why where I am right now, even though I am not quote unquote traditionally religious to many people that I've grown up with in the past, I'm still very proud of my religion, and I'm still very much connected to it, and I'm still very connected to the traditions, and I feel that it's made me a better person. And that's another thing that I think we need to really do. We need to really go back to some of the positive traditions. And we just talked about that, like, the whole concept of the family. It doesn't necessarily have to be a stay-at-home mom. It can be a stay-at-home dad. That's a traditional thing that the family structure has seen. It can be different now. It can be changed, just like, there can be a family with two moms or two dads. That's what I'm saying. Things are changing, but we can still hold on to those core positive principles in a new and evolved way to still give ourselves and those who mean something to us a happier life. And I know that this has completely gone off the topic,
Yeah.
but it can still be woven back into it. There's nothing wrong with a strong, independent, career-oriented woman who can still be a proud mother. She may not be the one staying home with the children, but her role is to be the breadwinner, to bring home the money, to get the bills paid, to give her children a happy life. That's what it's all about. We're finding new ways that are sort of restructuring old ways, but they can still be very, very positive. But I just don't feel that people should be canceled just because of something that they had done in the past that they know for a solid fact was wrong. And that's the thing. It's like when someone actually apologizes, but the person who he's or she is apologizing to does not accept the apology, well, then that's not on the person who made the apology. That's just on the person who is just never going to be satisfied. And I feel that that's one of the major issues that we're having with some of these movements, because there are people that are basically in these movements that are just never, ever, ever going to be satisfied. And that's on them. That's not on us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And there's been so many like public apologies recently for many different reasons, but it's like I've noticed that there's a trend, especially on Twitter. Like Twitter's so rough right now, but like if someone apologizes on Twitter, everyone calls them out and saying, oh, that was ingenuine, like that wasn't real, they didn't mean it. And I'm just like, how do you know that they didn't mean it? Like, how do you know their intentions behind it, especially just through typing out something on a screen? Like there's so much miscommunication.
Social media is a great and horrible thing right now, because the problem with social media is just putting words on a message board is not the same as someone actually talking directly to you. It's like when my mom tries to have a meaningful conversation with me and she just constantly starts sending me a whole bunch of text messages. I just call her and I'm just saying, Mom, can we talk, please? I don't want to text this, you know?
Yeah.
It's so funny. They call it social media, yet we're so antisocial because of it.
It's true.
Yeah. So let's get into the fifth question. And we've already talked a little bit about this, but now we're going to expand a little bit more upon it. Men showing a sensitive side. Is it a bad thing? You know, boys for a long time have been told that they need to suppress their emotions. And one of the few things that we're not hearing enough of is the fact that because of the fact that boys are trained to be like that, there has been a massive uptick in male suicide rates. And the question really is, because of all of this that is happening, can a man still be considered strong if he shares his feelings?
I think strength is subjective. You know, what one person considers to be a strength, another person considers to be a weakness. But as far as a man showing his emotions, like, men aren't robots. They shouldn't be treated like robots. Men have feelings too. And I think it's up to them if they want to express it or not. I don't think we should force people to express their feelings. You know, like, if a woman was upset about something, no one would be yelling at her saying, how come you're not crying? How come you're not talking about it? And, you know, I don't think we should do the same thing for a man. If he doesn't want to express his feelings, then that's his own choice. But I don't think we should make men feel like they can't express those feelings if they want to, because it doesn't make you any less of a man if you cry or if you want to show your emotions. Just like it doesn't, it's not about gender, and it shouldn't really be about gender, because there are plenty of women who aren't very emotional.
That's
They
true.
don't express their feelings like the typical woman does, you know. And so in the same way, men are, you know, there it's a varying spectrum. Not all men are the same. Not all men hold in their feelings and don't express their emotions. And then, you know, there are obviously some people that do. um, I just feel like they should be given the opportunity to express those feelings if they want to. They shouldn't be shamed for sharing their feelings, because feelings are natural, emotions are natural, and you know, it it makes no sense to me to ask someone to hold in how they feel, just for the sake of them being a man, because it doesn't have anything to do with gender. We're all emotional human beings. Um, and so when you talk about like men being less of a man if they share their feelings, it it's not it's not about them being less of a man. It's just them being human.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember hearing something really interesting when I was in college. I was just talking with my friends about just some geeky stuff and whatnot, and apparently, one of the big things right now in popular culture, especially here in America, is anime. People are watching a lot of anime. People are reading a
Mm-hmm.
lot of manga right now, especially in the booktube community.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that a lot of people did not know was that one of the things that you do see a lot in anime is you see a lot of men crying.
Mm-hmm.
And when anime was first starting to show up on the in the West, there were some shows that were going through heavy editing processes, and one of the things that was being edited was men crying,
Mm-hmm.
because a man crying in our culture for a very long time was an extremely strong sign of weakness in a man.
Mm-hmm.
But how many of the strongest men have cried when they became a father for the first time, or when
Yeah.
their son or daughter got married, or when they became a grandchild, or
Mm-hmm.
when just or when their relative, someone who was near and dear to them, passed away. It's just like it's okay to show an emotion like that, and it's also extremely okay to show a sensitive side, because as a guy, I feel that women appreciate a man that
For
shows
sure.
their emotions.
Yeah.
They appreciate the fact that the man is willing to be his most honest and truthful self to her.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm angry, I don't want to hold something in. When I'm upset about something, I don't want to hold something in, because I also feel that that's another reason why something as wonderful as a marriage sometimes doesn't last,
Yeah.
because the husband and the wife, or look, even if it's a husband and a wife and a wife, if you're not sharing with each other,
Yeah.
your marriage may not work in the long run, because you're just not being truthful and honest. And sometimes being truthful and honest means showing those said emotions. Because it's like,
Yeah.
and believe me, I've been on emotional roller coasters
Mm-hmm.
for the last 5 years, because going through the process of buying a house, now going through the process of hoping to have a child, seeing so many things around me happening, seeing relatives and friends unfortunately dealing with loss. Like my wife and I, unfortunately, one of the few things that has happened way too often in our lives together as a couple is we've gone to a lot of funerals.
Mm-hmm.
It's really sad, because we were blessed to have some of our relatives in our lives for so many years, but they're passing away. So,
Yeah.
to see that happen is just a sad thing. And, especially in the last few months with the pandemic, things were tense, things were very high strung. We had to really take a lot of time to sit with each other and just try and calm each other down. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
I know for a solid fact that I have to be truly patient for the next couple of months because of the fact that my wife going back to school and teaching her kids, she's going to be having an extra tough time because of all of the regulations that she and all the possible risks of getting COVID-19. So she and I both agreed there are going to be some days where she is just going to come home either extremely exhausted, extremely angry, extremely upset. She said she might cry a couple of times, and I have to basically be there to just listen and share something if I feel like sharing, but just listen, because I have to show a sensitive side, because I understand that even if I have a bad day, I know that she's going to have an even more worse day than me just because of everything that she's going through. So that's really what I feel is important. A man really should show a sensitive side. And the whole term of sensitive doesn't necessarily mean just a man crying. It's a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we're going to go into the sixth question, and that is something, especially in recent days, it came off full force. So this is completely perfect timing. I think that one of the places where we're seeing this whole movement and a lot of talk about this is in the entertainment industry. And I don't know if you heard about this, but I know a lot of people and their cousins twice removed, along with the Four Winds, have heard this. But the Academy Awards just recently announced a lot of new rules that are going to start taking place in 2024 in order for a movie to get nominated for Best Picture. So they're saying right now that there needs to be more women doing more things in the movie industry and the TV industry, et cetera, et cetera. There's now the new saying, this movie was not made for him. There's also, it's man's fault that a movie that starred women or was directed by a woman is unsuccessful. Let's unpack this, because it's a lot to go over. I mean, a perfect example in one of these was the remake of Charlie's Angels, which was directed by Elizabeth Banks. Now, I like Elizabeth Banks. I think that she is a great actress, and I also know that she has directed some movies that some people have considered praiseworthy. But when her movie was not successful, she blamed men for shooting it down. Here's the truth. No one wanted a remake of Charlie's Angels. That's number one. The first Charlie's Angels had a strong female cast. It was so popular, it got a sequel.
Yeah.
And even women didn't go see this movie because nobody cared about it. So my question is, why is it men's fault that that movie did not do well? I mean, do you want me to bring up Ghostbusters 2016? I'll gladly do that.
Gosh. You know, I think just because you're a woman doesn't mean you deserve for success to just be handed to you. You don't deserve success and praise just because you're a woman. And in the same way, men don't deserve success and praise just because they're a man.
Exactly.
You have to earn those things. You know, like, just as an example, because I'm a musician and a singer, like, I have to listen to people play and sing all the time and give them critiques. And if someone can't sing, if they're tone deaf, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, you did a great job, you're an amazing singer, you're going to succeed and be a professional musician, professional singer one day. Like, that's not something I'm going to do just because they are putting effort in. If they're tone deaf, then they're tone deaf and they can't sing. You know?
Yeah.
So in the same way, like with the film industry, just because you're in that position, just because you're directing a movie and you put the work in, doesn't mean the product that you're putting out is worthy of praise and success. You may be proud of it, but you know, your opinions about your own work are always going to be subjective. And so if people don't like what you do, then, you know, it's not necessarily even a reflection of the work that you've put out. People have different opinions, different tastes. and you're always going to appeal to one group of people more so than others. There's always going to be a group of people that love what you do, but there's always going to be people that hate what you do. But just because you're a woman in the film industry and you're directing a movie does not mean that your movie is well done or that it's going to be successful or you deserve praise just because you're a woman. And so to blame men for, you know, your product not being successful is just not, it's just stupid to me.
Yeah, let's let sarcasm roll in here and let me talk about America's sweetheart Brie Larson, shall we? I mean, I still remember that speech that she made when she got an award, and she was talking about Ava DuVernay's Disney film A Wrinkle in Time, and she says, "I don't want to hear a 40-year-old white dude telling me about what he thought about that movie because it wasn't made for him." First of all, let me tell you about A Wrinkle in Time, okay?
I hated it.
I read the book, and this movie was all wrong. It has nothing to do with the color of the people's skin in that movie.
No.
It has nothing to do with anything else. My attitude about that movie is you took something that was beloved by so many people from a story perspective and you ruined it. And number two, I don't know why people glorify Ava DuVernay as one of the greatest female directors of all time, because I've seen some of her more recent films, and I have to be honest with you, she is very overrated as a film director. As a documentarian, she is brilliant. I have seen her documentary films, but one of the movies that I saw that she directed was Selma, which was about Martin Luther King. And I was so excited to see that movie. And I will say that David Oyelowo, who played Martin Luther King, that was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. He's one of my favorite actors, and he did a fantastic job as Dr. King. But the movie itself as a whole was over-glorified. There was just so many imperfections with that movie. I mean, like, I think the thing that I said when I actually reviewed that movie was she seemed to have a massive fetish about watching Oprah Winfrey fall to the ground in slow motion. I don't understand why she did that. And I still remember when Greta Gerwig got nominated for directing the movie Lady Bird. Lady Bird is a great movie. She did a great job directing it. But the fact that people got so angry because she didn't win, I'm sorry. There was a better director that won that award that year, and that person, unfortunately, was a man, and we have to accept that, you know?
Yeah.
And people also keep forgetting that Catherine Bigelow won Best Director for The Hurt Locker, and the movie won Best Picture. Apparently, to these people, she's not a woman. She doesn't count. So I'm still just trying to wrap my head around this culture that is basically being forced upon the industry, because basically now it's like your movie cannot win Best Picture unless like 30% of your staff is either women or oppressed minorities. I mean, first of all, here's one of the few things that I've been saying to a lot of different people. Is there anything wrong with a minority getting a job over a white person? The answer is no. It's not about the identity politics. It's about the skills that you bring to the table. That's really what it is. So if I was a head of a movie studio and I needed to bring an editor on board, and I had to choose between a white woman and a black woman, and the black woman doesn't have the editorial skills, I have to say I can't hire you. And it's not because you're black. You see what I'm saying? It's not because you're a woman. If it's between a man and a woman, if the woman is more qualified than the man, I will obviously pick the woman. That's what it's really all about. We can't force people to do certain things based on gender and based on skin color. That's what I'm trying to get across here. I mean, I'm sure that right now the comment section is blowing up and I am now officially going to be labeled a racist just by saying all this stuff. But do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is minorities don't get the same opportunity. And as far as, you know, gender equality, women don't always get the same opportunity as men do, especially in the workforce. But there are definitely, I mean, like you said, if it was up to you, you would pick the person who is best qualified, not because of their gender or the color of their skin. But there are other people in the world who aren't like you and who would pick.
Yes. I'm
The other
so sorry to interrupt you, but that's another major point. So I'm very, very glad that you brought that up, Maddie. That's another thing that I specifically want to state here. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who do base these types of hirings based on those other means, which is unfortunately not the right way to go. You know, it's like, but I agree with you 100%. It's unfortunate that there are a lot of people out there that do not have the mindset of the example that I just brought to the table. Let me just make that clear. Please continue.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the film industry, I think maybe, I mean, I'm not them, but maybe the reason why they made those changes to be nominated is because they're trying to force companies to give more opportunities to those minorities. And it may not necessarily be about women being better at the job than men. It could just be forcing companies to create more equal opportunity. But on, you know, the flip side of that, I think, just like you were saying, everyone should be hired based on their skill set and how qualified they are for the job. So I think in some ways it is more harmful to force companies to hire a specific amount, a specific percentage of women or minorities if they aren't qualified for that position. I think it could actually harm the industry more so than it can bring good. I mean, I'm a woman, and I will say that if I'm not as good as a man at doing whatever specific job it is, then you shouldn't hire me. You should hire the man who's more qualified for the job. I don't want something to just be handed to me just because of the fact I'm a woman. I don't want handouts. I want to be able to achieve my goals and earn them, not those things be handed to me. So I think, I mean, I am different. Everyone has different opinions. You know, tons of women out there would disagree with me, but I think the feminists who are trying to force women into the industry are really being counterproductive, and they're not helping women in the long run, because if you're not earning the position, then no one's going to respect you in that position. But if you're earning, you know, people are going to respect you and your skills and what you bring to the table. But if it's just handed to you just because you're a woman, then no one's going to respect that.
Yeah, that's definitely an important point that you brought up. I'm very, very glad that you did. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, look, it was Martin Luther King who said it best, you know, I want my children to live in a world where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the judgment of our character. And that's really what I feel that, and it's not just America, I think that it's the world that's really losing that important sentiment, because that's really what it's all about. We have to judge people on their character. You know, are they good people regardless of what they look like or where they come from? You know, can they do the job that they're setting out to do? I mean, look, I never heard, I mean, another thing that came up in conversations very recently, which was something I never even thought of, was the whole concept of white privilege, you know? And I go back to, well, how did I get my current job? I got my current job because I basically started working as an unpaid intern. I worked for lots of different higher ups in this college. And because of the fact that people appreciated the fact that I was coming in, doing the job, making no money on it, mind you, while I was getting my master's degree, they saw a lot of value in my passion. They saw a lot of value in my work ethic. And then, you know, there were, and I'm not going to lie about the fact that I actually did say, I would love to work here as a permanent full-time employee here. So word got around. People started talking about me. There were like some opportunities coming up and saying, well, this young man has been working for me for a while. I think that he would be a great fit for you and your team. So I got 2 interviews for 2 different positions. Obviously, one of them actually took me on. It wasn't because I was white. It wasn't because I was a guy. It was because of the fact that I showed them how passionate I was about this job. And also because of the fact that I was going to school there, I had even more passion to work for these people because it was sort of me getting the opportunity to give something back, express my gratitude for them because you gave me the opportunity to get a career change out of this. And because of the fact that I am now happy, so happy with the career change that I made and the fact that I now am able to give myself and my wife this amazing life. Could it be better? Of course it could be better, but that's how I got my job. I got my job because I worked. I earned it because I worked for it. And that's one of the few things that I feel is being lost right now. I can't even tell you how many job interviews I went on looking for jobs and how many rejections I got. And this is long before this whole diversity hire program and some of these companies took effect, before all of these movements started. I was never the #1 pick for companies, never. I don't know what it was about me. Could it have been because I was not great in my interviews? Could it have been just because I wasn't what they were looking for? You know what? That's the way it's got to be. That's life. We have to deal with rejection too, as opposed to just getting everything that we think we deserve at the drop of a hat.
Yeah. It goes back to like participation trophies. Because like now kids get participation trophies.
You know, now you officially brought up an old story about my life. Okay. When I was in day camp, growing up as a little kid, every single week, awards would be given out. Some kids would get certificates, but then there would be the athlete of the week who would get a camp t-shirt and a camper of the week, and he or she would get a trophy. I was going to this camp for so many years, and I never, ever got camper of the week trophy. I think it was like when my second to last year when I was actually going to be a camper before I actually was able to be a camp counselor. I actually went to one of my counselors and asked him, how do I get camper of the week? Like, I want to get this. He says, well, here's what you got to do. He says, you got to behave. You got to show us that you're a team player. You got to be willing to participate in everything and not just sit on the sidelines and dig up dirt. So I worked my ass off to get that trophy. And ready for this? It took almost the entire summer for me to finally get it, but I finally got that trophy. And here's another story. I also aimed for Student of the Month in high school. It took me 4 years. My senior year, I finally got it because I actually took my schoolwork seriously. I treated my teachers with respect. I got so many good grades. When I got Student of the Month, the entire school was in the auditorium. I got a standing ovation because I finally got it. Because everybody always knew that I was a good person. Everybody loved me. I was such a everybody thought I was like one of the nicest guys in the school. And nobody understood why I never got Student of the Month. But when I was a senior and I finally got that award, everyone was just so freaking happy. They literally I literally ran up on the stage, almost scared my principal half to death because I was just so happy, just wanted to shake his hand because I finally got it. But people also wanted me to dive off of the stage and get caught and like do a mosh pit sort of thing, and that didn't happen because I'm not that stupid. But you see what I mean? It's like I worked for it. That's really what it was. So that leads us into the final question, and that is, How do you feel about men and women being willing to share the spotlight? Do you see us finally reaching those true levels of equality in the near future?
I think it's always going to be a problem, to be honest. I think there's always bad in the world, and the world's never going to be perfect. So we can say that we're working towards the ideal future, but there's always going to be people who aren't going to work for it. There's always going to be people who don't want it. You know, on the subject of feminism, you know, there are men who believe that they are superior than women. There are plenty of people who think that. And so if they're in positions of power, they're not going to let, you know, gender equality happen. You know, there's always going to be people who are going to combat everything that we're trying to accomplish. So I think it's important that we continue to work for the future that we want and continue to advocate for each other, and pursue those goals. But at the same time, I don't think it's something that we'll ever fully reach. I think there's just too many factors involved and too many people who disagree with one another, because we're not all unified. There's so much disunity, and no one, like, there's so many people on the planet. We're never going to all agree with each other, and we're never going to be working towards the same goal alongside one another. So I don't think it's something that'll ever be fully realized. I think we can get as close as possible to it, and things can get better in our society and in our culture, but I don't think it's something that we can actually achieve.
You know, there are some people that would really look at that in a very negative light, but I don't think you could be any more truthful, because I agree with you 100%. And, you know, when you take a look, as you and I, who are people that consume a lot of entertainment, we read a lot of books, we watch a lot of movies, and we see that whole concept of utopia. I really feel that the chances of us reaching dystopia are much more realistic than utopia. And the main reason as to why utopia will never truly be reached is because we're human. Human nature is always going to be our biggest downfall, because of the fact that there is hunger for power, there is envy. You know, look, you are a God-fearing woman. The 7 deadly sins, they're never, ever, ever going to be wiped away. Could we get to the point where we could possibly eliminate racism? I think that that is a possibility, especially considering the changes that we're seeing right now. So I feel that that is something that has a much better chance of reaching that goal than trying to see a balance between men and women, because unfortunately, there's always going to be jealousy. There's always going to be a power struggle, no matter what. I mean, look, it's not going to be man versus woman all the time. It's going to be man versus man. It's going to be woman versus woman. It's going to be white versus white, black versus black, brown versus brown. That's human nature. But I do still believe that we are going to get closer with every passing year. I mean, look, I will never, ever be opposed to a female president. You've just got to give me the right person. The right female director will direct the best picture. It has happened already. It will happen again. Okay? The most popular star in music, I'm pretty sure, is not a man. Okay? Right now, it is a tie between Lady Gaga, Adele, Lizzo. Look, women are so powerful in the music industry right now. Billie Eilish, you name it. When you think about who the most popular artist in music is right now, you almost never mention a man. That's a solid fact. And I even said to people that in the next 10 years, when we officially headed into the new decade, the biggest star was going to either be Lizzo or Billie Eilish or both. And you want to know something? Right now, I'm looking like I'm right about that, because it's true. They're powerful, great, amazing songwriters. I mean, Billie Eilish's song for the new James Bond movie is amazing. I love it so much. No Time to Die is a wonderful, wonderful song. One of the best songs that I have heard. I mean, take a look at the book industry. Look at how many of the best-selling books are written by women.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
if you are out there still feeling that women are not making a difference in this world, look a little closer. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I see. That is what I see. And I feel that the reason why these women are so strong and are reaching these tremendous rewarding accolades is because they're just working so hard to be where they are today. You know, I just feel that I agree 100%, but I do still feel that we will reach a much better place than where we are now. And I just feel the best way to do that is to not come at it with anger. You got to come at it with logic and understanding and a willingness to work together. That's really what I feel is where we're lacking. We're not trying to find common ground anymore.
Well, it goes back to the whole revenge thing that we talked about in the beginning. If feminists are coming at it from a standpoint of, like, we hate men, we don't like you anymore, we want you out, and like you're trying to work towards equality with that anger and with that revenge, then it's not going to work. You know, we have to be loving and forgiving and united and work together in order to achieve the goal. And if women are coming at men, shaming them and hating on them and saying, you know, like, we're better than you, you don't deserve to be in the position that you've earned, then they're not going to listen. Unfortunately, most men won't listen to women who are coming. It goes just in relationships in general. When you're talking to people, if you come at them with anger and shame, then they're going to be less likely to listen to what you have to say.
Yes, yes. That's unfortunately going back to the whole broad brush statement, you know?
Yeah, you can't look at a select few and apply it to the whole population.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's where we are right now. But unfortunately, because of the fact that we are dealing with probably one of the worst years of our lifetime, because of the fact that we are so high strung because of everything that's happened, that's why I feel right now it's going to unfortunately get worse before it gets better. And that's just because of everything that's been happening this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but look, there's no reason why we can't be positive and seriously feel that good things will come in the end. And that's where we're going to wrap it up. So, Maddie, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. This was a very, very good conversation. I'm hoping that you and I will really take what we've learned here today and really hopefully see some of the things that we would like to see actually happen here in this country and around the world in the years to come.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And everybody, I'm hoping that, once again, you all understand that this was not a conversation for the sake of trying to stir any pots or make any noise. This was just a conversation that I personally wanted to have. And I specifically wanted to talk to a woman with this because I wanted to get both sides. I wanted to learn, I wanted to gain. And believe me, there is only so many times you can have these conversations with your spouse. So to get an outside opinion is very, very healthy as well. But I'm hoping that you all learned something. I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. I'm looking forward to hopefully carrying on this conversation with some of you if you're willing to talk, because I have a lot more to learn, and I'm hoping that you all have a lot more to learn and to gain as well. So I'll be looking forward to seeing you all in the next episode of Sunday Sit Downs, when we have another great topic to discuss, but dare I say it, as always, another great YouTuber to discuss it with. I will see you in the next one, everybody. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.